So funny enough, my wife started this.
Yeah.
Because she's all in on the music thing too. But she started sing talking to Elton. And then pretty soon we were just like sing talking randomly. Like last weekend, I was calling an audible in the car. It was just me and her.
Yeah.
I said, should we go get some ice cream or should we go home and watch a show? And she's like, let's get some ice cream, daddy.
Oh, man.
So
that's so good.
That was the best
That was
singing,
way better than Coco Melon. What's up, dads? This is the Rise and Dad podcast, a podcast and perspective on life as a dad from dads who are intentional about their fatherhood. I'm your host, Kevin Delro, and this is a good one. He is a product marketer. He is a content marketer. He is a forever singer, songwriter. Growing up, also now, not so much now because of more of a hobby was fatherhood, but we're going to hear a ton of great notes about being a dad, music, and greatness. So I'd like to welcome Kris to the podcast. Woo! Yeah! Hey, Kris, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Hey, let's get into it. Give us your dad stats.
Okay, so dad for the last 4 years of a sweetie girl named Elton. I've been married almost 10 years. Live in West Seattle, for those that are native to the Western Washington area. I do product marketing by day, a lot of music back in the day, and still doing it a little bit, but it's more of a wish I could do it more, but I have other priorities. So.
Yeah, I get you, man. And one thing that's great about this podcast and working with people locally is that I can see great dads just like in public, and we've ran into each other at the zoo, like literally just with our kids being great dads. And so I knew that I had to get you on the podcast and talk about your experiences.
Sweet.
So what's going on in your house right now? What's happening?
So Elton's really into puzzles, asking 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
She likes to delegate everything to me. So it's like I'm constantly moving, which is good as I get older. It's good to keep in shape that way.
Yeah.
And then one thing that we just got out of our teacher conference, and the teacher was saying that she was starting to do some hitting.
Oh, no.
So yeah, we're dealing with that. And also like really trying to manage like when we say no, it means no.
Sure.
Because she's like already a chief negotiator. So
yeah.
She's a little too smart for her own good. She puts me together.
Yeah,
like,
you said
nonstop.
she's 4 years old, right?
Yeah.
Mine too. And it's totally the phase of the negotiations, the no, I don't want to, and even sometimes lying at times too, which we've caught our daughter in.
Yeah.
How you handling it? Okay.
Yeah, of course. Sometimes it's really hard just because you're trying to balance being like firm, but also giving them the agency to like learn how to negotiate and have an opinion and manage through the issues. So I don't know, I don't have the textbook figured out yet on how to manage it, but it's the good with the bad. No?
And with my daughter, there's a level of teaching her, just like you said, the art of the argument and forming great reasonings and I guess data at that point in her life of how we're going to navigate these conversations, because the answer doesn't always have to be, yes, I will do that. I'd love to have her be this individual who can speak and put her thoughts into well-presented ideas.
Like sometimes she's coming up with creative solutions. I was like, we can't have that now. She's like, could we have it in 20 minutes? Yeah, we could have it in 20 minutes.
What if we eat the cookie first and then we eat the dinner?
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Or can I have half now instead of not having any now? I was like, man, you're good. All right. I like where your head's at. Yeah. So I want to foster that, but also there's times where it's like, no means no, and you got to know that and be okay with it.
And my wife is definitely so much better at it than me that I'm just like, I'm the softie. I'm just like, all right, let's do it.
That's so true.
You got the
cookie. She knows I'm the softie. Like when mom says no, usually she's like, got it. Okay.
Yeah. My daughter is starting to, like, she'll ask mom, will say no. Then she'll come and ask me. And I'm like, you already start doing that? I thought, it's like, man, already.
Same.
Let's get to this. How did you first find out you were going to become a dad? And what was your reaction? What did you do? How did you prepare?
I'll just name drop a little because this guy's one of my favorite producers, this guy named Budo, who's done a lot of stuff in Seattle. I don't think he's not in Seattle right now, but always working with a ton of artists. And we worked on a record together, and we just maintained a friendship. We were out playing tennis one day, and he had just told me that his wife was pregnant. And I came home, and Alex is on the couch and she's looking at me with this kind of weird look. And I was like, what is going on? And she told me, she's like, hey, I just tested like positive. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I ran to the store, the and got 3 more tests just so we could make sure. And then when it was real, I just started making a list. I was like, oh my God, I got to get all these things I got to do. I don't know why that's always the thing. I've heard that a lot of people, it's, there's all these things you got to do before your life changes forever. Yeah. But for me, it was like home renovations basically was like the list of things.
Yeah. We actually, right before my daughter came, we were like buying a new house. Or buying a house. And so it was like all that signing documents, all that moving stuff. So I pretty much did all the packing and moving so that my wife, who had a newborn, could just walk into her new home and be ready. So
that's awesome.
I hear you on that. But did you do anything in terms of preparation towards like fatherhood, like reading a book, talking to any other dads? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely talked to a lot of dads just to go, hey, what should I be thinking about? Like, where should I be focusing? Because I don't know, I feel like anybody that works in the world that we work in, we're always looking around corners. And so that was one of the ways I was looking around corners, was just to go, what should I know that I don't know? But one thing that kind of gave me solace was millions of people have done this before me. So there's only so much I can really mess this up because it's been done so many times.
Yes, I hear you on that. When my wife and I were pregnant, she was going through all the emotions of, how are we going to do this? We're reading these books, we're listening to these tapes. And a lot of the times, and she probably didn't like that I had this like nonchalant way, but I was like, dude, there are people in the world with less resources, less people around them, less support, less everything. And their kids are just fine.
I know,
like,
totally.
We'll be totally fine. Like,
totally.
It'll be okay. I changed my mind later where I got a little freaked out. But like everyone has done it. And even if you think about something like potty training, literally everyone knows how to pee and poop.
Totally.
They'll figure it out. And that's what my kind of approach was always. It's just like, yeah, we'll figure it out. But I always like to ask about like how that was for others.
Yeah. And I like, there's just so many things you're doing leading up to it. There's all those trainings the hospital asks you to take, which are cool. Like CPR is a good one to know, like obviously. But we were in that similar boat as you. We were in a newer house and there's a lot of stuff that we still wanted to do. And just like my mindset was like, I'm not going to have a ton of time to focus on this when I'm supposed to be like being a dad and doing all the things for Alex, who just had a baby and is still trying to recover herself. Yeah. What was the thing, I'm curious, like that freaked you out? You're like, I was cool as a cucumber, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think I was cool as a cucumber going into it, and then I didn't realize the kind of mental load on all things parenting. I talk to new dads now and I say, hey, the baby is actually not the hard part. To me, the baby is literally a plant. Yeah. You feed it, you sleep it, you poop it, you fart it.
It's a plant.
And those early days, it is a plant and you keep it alive. But the biggest transition for me and the hardest part was understanding and keeping this plant alive with my partner, with my wife, because there's hormones, there's stress, there's all these things that are happening to her and her body, her mental state, and all these. And we have to learn how to do this together, right? So we didn't get sleep last night. One of us is grumpy. I might say something in a certain tone. There's a blow up. That's the hard part of parenting. It's not really the kid until the kid's maybe 4 and she's negotiating or whatever it is. But early on, the hardest part is learning how to do that with your partner, because that's just like another human that has thoughts and feelings and perspective on how to do things. And to me, that was always the hardest part. The baby was easy. And luckily, our daughter didn't have any complications or anything. And I'm fully aware that some parents are dealing with it as, of course, hard and emotional. Yeah, but for the most part, it's really just a plant early on. And the hardest part is doing that with your partner.
Yeah, love that. That's so true.
Do you feel that? Did you ever think that was a hard thing to come across? Or
I didn't see it coming, but like postpartum's real. Like
100, yeah.
I think that's super underplayed.
Yes.
And I was really surprised at how underplayed it was, because Alex and I looked into it after, because we'd heard from a friend. She's, hey, make sure like you're thinking about postpartum, because it happens to a lot of women after they have the child. Yeah. Okay, cool. But we had to deal with that. And I know a lot of my friends have had to deal with it too.
Yeah.
And then looking at the statistics, you're like, oh, wow, this actually happens to a majority of people. And it's actually pretty tough.
Yeah.
It's pretty challenging.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest adjustments for us, was because I had this nonchalant perspective on parenting. It's almost like after a week you'll be fine and you'll be happy and with this baby. But the truth of the matter is, it was just a journey that we had to learn to cope with, get better at, and improve. And even when we got help with it, my therapist talked about how you have to learn how to love your partner in many different ways. And what I mean by that is, you fall in love as single people, and then you fall in love again as married couple, and then you fall in love as parents. And you have to learn to love them at each stage, and each stage might be different. Versus, I think there's some negative thoughts where you're like, before a baby or something, be like, oh, we used to always do this, or why don't we do this anymore? And you're not like this anymore. And the truth of the matter is that we change in good and bad ways, but we just had to learn how to fall in love again. And that might be a Rise and Dad like marriage tip right there. Rise and husband
marriage tip.
Right?
Yeah, we don't watch Love Is Blind as much anymore. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's like, dude, we don't do that. All right, real quick, your biggest oh shit moment when you were a dad?
I think it was, the common one is like, that I've heard from other people that I felt deeply, was when we first left the hospital.
Sure, yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
They just trust us to leave, like, with this baby.
Yeah.
And then that wears off pretty quickly, like after a day or so, where you're like, okay, I'm in it. And I haven't slept a lot.
Yeah.
And then for me, when Elton got a little older and I was starting to just think about her trajectory in her life, and I start talking to other dads I'm in my early 40s. And so most of the dads that are in their early 40s, kids are a little older than mine. So some of them even are going off to college or have gone off to college. And so I thought about Elton going off to college, and that was the second oh shit moment for me, because I love her so much. Like, I don't want her to ever leave. I want her to just be with us. And that's not right. To want her to be there forever. It's not wrong either, but I'm just mean, like, obviously she's going to have to fly the coop eventually, and she'll be ready for that. But I'm not ready to think about it too much right now.
That is such an oh shit moment, because there's a lot of these like social media memes where they're like, you only have 18 summers with your kid, and I'm like, damn, we gotta go on an international trip, like we gotta go, like literally it's true. And like I do believe that's a no shit moment when you're like, we didn't do anything this year for spring break. Oh dang, we only have 17 more spring breaks. You know, like,
it's true though. Yeah.
All right, let's hear about your approach to fatherhood. I know that some of it might include music, but we'll probably touch on that. But like, how do you think you approach fatherhood? Because I think everybody's a little different. We've had guests on the show that are like very Christian or that weren't born in America. So what do you think your approach is?
My approach to fatherhood is really pretty simple or straightforward. I think it just comes down to showing up. I think part of that was really influenced for me by this song called Cat's Cradle. I can't remember now. I'm blanking on who it's by, but it was like a good artist that I really like. So I should remember this, which is embarrassing. But the song's about how the kid always wants to hang out with the dad, but the dad's always gone for work or for whatever. And then when the dad comes home later in life, so to speak, and he wants to hang out, the son's too busy for him. And that is crushing. It's again the going off to college thing. So and so for me, like, all Elton wants, all kids really want, is like your attention. They just want you to be there and to show up. So to me, like, that's the thing I always try to remember when I'm thinking about being a good parent, is just showing up, just giving them my attention, giving her my attention. So
I like that. And, you know, it's so similar into what I try to think about. I always say to my wife, I give her this example. Anytime that we're having a hard time or even a fun time, I say, hey, Steph, in 25 years, if someone said they could take us back to this moment right here, we would say, I would pay anything to be here. And we're in this moment right now. So let's take advantage of it. Like, it would literally be like my daughter having a meltdown in the bathtub. And we're like, hey,
been there.
In 20 years, we're going to be hoping that we were here right now. So let's put that into perspective. But that's always a thing that my wife will like, yeah, I know we will, but
wish I could see another meltdown right now.
Truth is, you're going to want them.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So you brought up a great thing about presence. And I also talked to you about balance.
Yeah.
This idea of balancing, you talked about it earlier, about balancing being a great husband, a dad, and great at your job. And I know that's really hard because I do the same. And could you tell me about how like you approach that balance? Because I know I've talked to you about sometimes if you're great at your job, you might not be a great father, or
Yeah.
you might be not there at times or whatever it
Yeah.
might be. You get it.
Totally. I used to be like in my 20s, I used to try to do it all. And when you don't have a wife or a kid or a house or some of these things that require more time, a lot more time, you can do all of it. You may not do it all well, but you can at least try everything. And I think that's what I liked about my 20s is I got a taste of a lot of different things so that I can understand what I love to do. But then as I've gotten older, I've realized I can't do it all. And it's a lot more of it's just about managing my energy too and making sure that the things I am doing, I'm showing up well and I'm delivering at a high level. And that sounds kind of like a work thing, but it really isn't just work. Like making sure I'm listening when my wife tells me something and I can be there to think through things with her versus just saying,
Yeah.
or like with my daughter when she wants to play with a puzzle and I'm like ready to chill after work and I don't want to do anything, going, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take the time to do that with her instead of trying to take downtime right now for myself. And some of that's even a trade-off, but
Yeah.
that's I guess gets to like the broader point of everything's a trade-off.
Yeah.
And so what's your number one, your number two, and your number three? And then what are the other things that are nice to haves? It's like how I try to balance it in my head. And being a good dad is either number one or number two, depending on the day. Being a good husband is number one or number two. And then being good at my job is number three, because that's how I'm going to pay the bills and take care of my wife and my daughter.
Yeah. I like how you prioritize the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I think that's the same for me. And a lot of times when I know that 1 and 2 are good,
Yeah.
I can figure out the rest.
Yeah. Totally.
If shit hits the fan at work or a different side project, like 1 and 2 is all right. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
So when you talk about balancing, do you find when you prioritize, there's obviously different levers, right? So
Yeah.
less time here, more time there. Do you find yourself stretching yourself more so that you can give your time elsewhere? And I'll give you an example of this. This is something that I really struggle with. My daughter wants to play with me or do whatever, go outside, and I'll choose to do that knowing that I'll do whatever is next. Let's say it's work or something at 1 a.m. and
Yeah.
I'll do it until 3 a.m. And I
Yeah.
don't want to do that, but
Yeah.
I have found that the balance is more of a trade-off where I'm taking the brunt of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'd rather sleep less and do this thing with my daughter than have one thing kind of slack.
I
But,
think of it like a seesaw where like sometimes you can do that,
yeah.
but if you do that too much, then like this really is going to, the other side of your life is going to suffer. Like pretty soon you won't have the energy to do all this stuff. And so you need to balance it and go back and forth. If I've had to work 2 nights in a row, for example, I just won't work the third night. I'll figure it out. And maybe that means like working a little earlier and I can't hang out with my daughter that night.
Yeah.
And my wife's going to have to help there. But I think that's like there's like a seasonality within like even the day, week for me. But there's also like a broader seasonality where there's like months where I'll be overnight at the office kind of thing. Or my wife is. And so we're just like there for each other to balance out the seasonality.
Yeah. I like leveraging your partner to do that. Like you
Yeah.
have to. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of my, like what I do worse is I have all these things that I'm trying to do where rather than taking care of myself, which would be like sleeping and eating better and working out, I'm actually just stretching where I'm like, I'm not sleeping, like, so I can
Yeah.
do this other thing.
Yeah, like it tanks you after a while. If you're not sleeping, it's just like you're no good to anybody.
Yeah.
So
There's a sense of being your best self so that you can be your best
Totally.
dad, husband, blah, blah, blah.
yeah, totally. It's like that idea of putting on your life jacket before you put on the next person's, because you're no good to anybody if your life jacket's not on. But
So good. That's a good metaphor.
wow,
right
that's
there,
good
yeah.
actually. Where'd that come from?
All right, so everyone has their own personal angle and personal story.
Yeah.
And yours as a forever singer songwriter really comes through with music. Or I asked you about your rituals, and I think that music and rituals played a big part in bedtime.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, I really wanted Elton to have music around her, but I wanted it to be more organic. I didn't want her to ever feel like it was being pushed on her either. And so early on, like when we were hanging around the house, I'd be like holding her when she was a baby, watching TV. I'd be like beatboxing just so she'd get some beats going in her head. She'd always have,
You're prepping her.
Yeah. And then the same thing goes at bedtime. Every night I'd put on the same song to help that create that ritual or the routine. Or it'd be Casey Musgraves was an artist I love. And it would be like Butterflies, or there's another one, Slow Burn. It'd always be one of those. And so she would get used to that kind of, when that song came on, it triggered that it was time for bed, and getting her organically into that routine, but also getting really good songwriters into her vibes.
Yeah, and you're also like feeding your own creative juices, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So did you sing songs to her?
Yeah.
Or you listened to music, sang songs, and
Yeah,
beatbox, you said?
Yeah, I'd sing. We also sometimes we just put on music and just dance around the house together too.
That's awesome.
I don't think we did that too much, but it would happen maybe like once a month.
Yeah, because you talked about how you guys connect. It's like a fun way to connect through music or sing talking.
Yeah.
Like that. So sing talking, is that like Coco Melon?
Yeah. So funny enough, my wife started this.
Yeah.
Because she's all in on the music thing too. She would say she's not as musically inclined, but she has like really good music taste though.
Sure.
But she started sing talking to Elton, and then pretty soon we were just like sing talking randomly. Like last weekend we were coming back from Bellingham, and I was calling an audible in the car. It was just me and her.
Yeah.
I said, should we go get some ice cream, or should we go home and watch a show? And she's like, let's get some ice cream, Daddy.
Oh man,
So
that's so
it's
good.
just, that was the best.
That was
singing,
way better
but-
than Coco Melon. No, way better.
But it's fun because that she just goes right into it. She's pretty fearless too, like when it comes to singing in front of others, which is cool.
Yeah, and we'll touch a little bit about that later. But you also mentioned some beatboxing to sleep.
Beatboxing generally, whenever kind of thing.
It's like part of the nighttime routine, or
Not necessarily. I think it just comes out randomly.
yeah. Does your daughter try to do it?
Yeah, and she's actually pretty good at it. She's not. It's nothing to write home about, but she's got a good beat. Like the drummer, the music teacher at school. I don't know if I should be sharing this in case there's other students listening, but said that came up to me and she said, "Hey, my husband's a really good drummer. He's a jazz drummer. The best rhythm of anybody I've ever met, but the second best rhythm of anybody I've ever met is your daughter." And I was like, "Are you serious?"
Prodigy.
She might have just been being a little nice too.
Sure, but yeah.
Which was sweet of her. But just to hear that was like, as a dad, so cool.
Yeah. And this is music has just a special place in your heart.
Yeah.
Like, that's so great.
She came home the other day from school because I'd seen a picture on the school's Instagram of her like with drumsticks and headphones because they have a little drum kit at the school. And she was like singing, "We Will Rock You." And I was like, "Where'd you hear that? That's awesome."
Yeah.
She's singing.
That's funny that my daughter also will start singing songs, and it's the same thing. I'm like, where did you hear that?
Yeah.
It's either at grandma's house or whatever.
Or TV, wait for Elton.
Yeah. Can we get any of that sleeping beatbox? Can you beatbox me to sleep?
Oh man, this sleeping beatbox.
Hey.
So it's just a dad in his house beatboxing.
I love that. Hey, but that's like your love language, right? You like music, is it? I love that. So you shared with me a few things that were like also involved in music. And The Little Things. Is this a song? This is a song you wrote?
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
It was really late one night, like one of those early in your dad career where you're up and it's past midnight. And Elton was having a really hard time. She was probably like 2 months old or something, and was having trouble getting her back to sleep. And it just felt like just me talking to her kind of helped her get back to sleep. And it was just, I started to think about how these little moments and the little things you do for your kids add up to big things over time. And that all of a sudden a song like came into my head, which ended up turning into the idea for the larger song that I wrote in a studio at London Bridge, actually, up north of Seattle.
So you were approached to do this song, or how does that happen?
So I don't know, like it was definitely felt, I'm still relevant. Topo Chico reached out to me. They're like a sparkling water brand for those who don't know. And hey, we want to feature you on a record. We're getting a bunch of Seattle artists together and we're going to have them all write a song, or a song maybe they've already written, and you guys can record it for free in London Bridge. We'll take care of everything. And then they ended up doing like a show, like a release show around it after. It was really cool.
Yeah. So I could imagine the first time that you got to perform it for Elton. Did you get to?
I don't know if I've actually ever performed it for her.
Play it for
to be
her,
honest.
at least?
I played it, but she was so young that I don't think she really cared. She just goes, "Oh, that's Daddy."
Yeah.
But I don't think she really got the words. I might have to play it for her. I can't
Yeah,
believe
that
that.
might be a fun experience, just sitting her down and sharing like how it came to be, and then be like, I wrote this like with you in mind. And
yeah, that's
boom.
a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to do that tonight.
There you go. So you wrote this song. That is something that like I'll never be able to say I wrote and recorded a song for my daughter.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience of almost like confirming your dadness. You're literally writing songs about your daughter now. I'm guessing that's not what you wrote about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always been trying to write something that's going to be positive impact for people or affect them in a way that's going to help them. But whether it's getting through something or inspiring them to like be better.
Yeah.
But for me, like this was like the first time where I'd written in this new chapter of my life about this new chapter of my life, which was being a dad, being responsible for somebody else besides my wife.
Yeah.
So it was a bucket list item. I'd always wanted to write a song for my child.
Yeah.
My dad had written a song about me when I was just a baby. And so it felt cyclical in that way too. But it wasn't necessarily as like on the nose about her, even though it was about her.
Sure, yeah.
It's something that I think could be a little more universal for everybody. So
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I think that even the idea around the song, like little things that become bigger, like that is like a Rise and Dad podcast tip.
Yeah, there we go. Check it out. I'm on Spotify.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then there's another experience where you wrote this song and then you're performing and your daughter gets to join you on stage. Like,
Oh yeah.
gotta be an amazing experience. Tell me about that.
Honestly, like another bucket list item.
Yeah.
So Chateau Saint Michel, which is a winery near here, hit me up in November and they said, "Hey, you want to come play our tasting room at the end of the year?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." I hadn't played a show like in a while.
Yeah.
So I was actually picking up the guitar for first time in a minute, I was definitely rusty. But I told Elton about it and I said, "Hey, you want to play with me on stage?" She was stoked and didn't even
She's
flinch.
probably like 3 years old by then, or two or three, pretty young.
3, yeah.
Okay.
So she was just like, "Yeah, I'll play." I was like, "What do you want to sing?" She's a Twinkle. So it was just like her anthem. Like that's what her go-to. She sings that for people all the time. So it was like no sweat for her. So we did a couple practice sessions at home where I would introduce her. I'd be up on stage. I was like, "Okay, I'm going to introduce you and you come up and then we'll play it together." And so to do the staging so that she got used to it and she didn't have to think about it day of. It was just like natural. And so the day of, she came right up. She was ready. I picked her up, propped her on the stool, and she killed it. She didn't even flinch. It was awesome. It was such a bucket list. Like, wow.
Yeah, I
was
hope
so
you have
proud.
video of that. Like that
Yeah,
is
I
going to
do.
be such an amazing moment. Wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
And do you aspire that one day she will be up there with you actually like performing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think she will be. Like I don't think I'll stop playing anytime soon. It just won't happen very often, as often as I'd like. But I also think she might naturally go into it too and do her own thing.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much of a thing it'll be for her, and I don't want to put any pressure on her just because there's so many things she could do that would be awesome. Yeah.
Do you think that confidence, like how did you flex that confidence in her to be able to perform that? Because I was telling you earlier, like my daughter a couple years ago, she was a flower girl at a wedding and she had a little bit of anxiety walking down the aisle to throw the flowers. And there's a lot of times where our daughter's not confident taking a new class or joining a new environment. And I could imagine performing Twinkle Twinkle in front of a live audience might be tough.
I think it was all about the prep.
Yeah.
Like I kind of was telling you earlier, like the staging for your daughter, having her go down a pretend aisle and just, oh my gosh, and being in the crowd for her. I think that stuff helps a lot because kids don't know what they don't know. And so when they're in the moment, it's like new. But if they've been through it, but even if it's just prep or fake or whatever, I think that really helps. And they go, oh, I know what's going to happen. I can do this.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any other parts of music that you can see in the future you guys getting into, maybe learning a new instrument together, going to is there a concert that you both want to go to on your bucket list?
Ooh, yeah.
Austin City Limits together one day.
Yeah, I think a couple bucket list items would be just like doing a proper like cafe show with her where she's the front woman and I'm just backing her up would be cool someday. Just like cafe, just like a coffee shop. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a big thing.
Yeah. Man, if you ever do that, I'm there.
All
Tell
right.
me.
Deal.
Tell me. Literally,
Deal.
I'll be there.
Maybe you guys can play tambo.
We'll be dancing. My daughter loves dancing. We'll be dancing. We'll be
Awesome.
side dancers. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been really trying to like not put too much pressure on her to do it because I think that'll take away from her doing it. But it just seems like she's bound to be a musician
Yeah.
at some level.
Yeah.
So
There's always, I feel like I always go through this battle where, of course, I want my daughter to love everything that I love. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Like, I love basketball. If she wanted to be like, Dad, teach me how to play basketball. Let's play all the time. That'd be the best thing ever. And I would love that. But also, I want to give her the freedom of maybe you don't like basketball and you only do it because, you know, I do it and you see me do it. Do you ever think about,
Totally.
like, maybe being like, oh, do you actually want to do this? Or how are you actually giving her the autonomy to be like,
Yeah.
choose something else and I'll be fully into that too, just as much as would be music.
yeah, I mean, I honestly with Elton, she's so opinionated that like I'm not too worried about that because she tells me what she wants to do a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll try new things. And sometimes she's like, I don't want to try it. And then she tries it. Oh, that was really cool. Never mind.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, she'll tell me if she doesn't want to do something.
Yeah.
So I'm not luckily that hasn't been in too much of a fear so far. Yeah. One
love
thing
that.
that is funny about us is she's got her music,
Yeah.
like Super Kitties, now
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man
Super
recently.
Kitties!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're into it.
Yeah, claws out, paws out.
Yeah.
Like there's some cuts actually. But then she's also got music that she likes that we like, which is Role Model, Sylvan Esso. There's what's the band? Chapel Roan, Pink Pony Club, especially.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff that we like that she doesn't like.
Yeah.
But it's cool that we have that shared music.
Yeah.
Where we can put on. She goes, "This is our music.
Yeah.
Put on my music. Don't put on your music, or put on our music."
Yeah. You mentioned our music, and
Yeah.
I was very jealous because in our car, it's your music versus my music. And it's always my music, which is hers. It's always, Dad, I want my music, which is Frozen, Trolls.
Oh, Frozen's
Taylor
been
Swift.
Yeah.
But the Trolls ones are pretty good, actually.
Do the
With
Trolls
Justin
ones?
Timberlake stuff?
Yeah, Justin Timberlake's just naturally good at music, so it's easy to listen to.
Yeah. So sometimes after I drop her off, I just let it keep rolling. We're
Yeah.
jamming to Trolls like I'm by myself because it's on.
I've caught
Right.
myself a couple times when I drop her off at school, like driving. I'm like, wait, I'm still listening to Super Kitties. Oh my god.
That's funny. All right. What's the biggest challenge about being a dad?
Biggest challenge about being a dad, like back to the trade-offs discussion earlier. It never feels I have enough energy to do it right.
Yeah.
Like we did this daddy-daughter day last Friday when she didn't have school.
Yeah.
And we did like everything that she
Yeah.
loves to do. It was so fun. But by the end of it, she's like, I want to go do this thing. And I was like, no, I'm exhausted. And it's hard not to feel bad about saying no to her when it's like, there's just one more thing she wants to do. Can't you just do
Yeah.
it? But sometimes I gotta respect myself too and just be like, I'm exhausted. We had a great day. We've done a ton of stuff. And so I think for me, it's just feeling a little bit of remorse for not always going the distance.
Yeah, that's good. My daughter too will say, "Can you read another book?"
Totally.
You probably
Oh my
get
God.
the same thing. And what is it like? I always ask myself, in hindsight, can't read one more book.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Totally.
But in the moment, I already said that was the last one.
Yeah.
I have to do X, Y, and Z, and it's past your bedtime. There's other
Yeah.
reasonings why, but
Yeah.
you do have this level of guilt where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, she just wants me to read to her. Can I do that?
Yeah, totally. It's like, where's the line?
Yeah, yeah. All right, best part and worst part about being dad.
Best part is probably just those. It's a little thing, but just when I make Elton laugh, like really
Oh,
laugh,
yeah,
like
yeah.
gutturally, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best part of being
Yeah.
a dad. And like a double, I guess, tied for that is when she goes, "Daddy, I love you," and she like holds my head or like wraps around me. It's just dang,
Yeah.
it's my kryptonite in
It
a good
feels
way.
so good.
Yeah.
Another dad on the podcast was saying like kids give you feedback, and when they hug you and say I love you, like that is like such positive feedback that you need to
Yeah.
just roll with.
It's the epitome of feedback as a gift.
Yeah, yeah. And the other
yeah.
thing that I was gonna say, when you talked about that biggest challenge, you
Yeah.
talked about wanting to be great and like thinking, like having the energy. And what I always tell dads on the podcast or even in life is like, when you're thinking about how to be great or if you are great, then you're doing a good job.
Yeah,
Like, and I'm telling you that right now, like from me to you, if you're thinking about that's amazing. Or you're listening to the podcast, or you're thinking about how you're being present in all these ways, like that already is like a win to like being great.
Totally. Thank you.
I love it,
I'm
man.
affirmed. I feel affirmed.
Yes, you are. All right. One piece of advice for a dad or a dad to be.
Maybe just don't overthink it. Just it's that idea of showing up. As long as you're showing up and giving them attention, don't overthink it. Go with your instincts.
I love that, man. The last part is our new segment called Rise and Dad's Choice. Yeah.
I'm excited
I
for
know
this.
You like this one. All right.
You mentioned one question that you were going to ask from this list, and I was like, oh, these are going to be good.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Would you rather handle bath time or school pickup?
School pickup.
Do the morning routine or bedtime routine? So it's like getting ready for the morning or getting ready for sleep?
Getting ready for sleep.
Deal with a poopy blowout or a public meltdown?
Poopy blowout, for sure.
Attend a kid's birthday party or a school field trip?
Birthday party. I feel like that's an easy one.
Oh, man, sometimes the birthday parties. I'm
Really?
over it.
Oh, gosh, that's good.
I'm over it. All right, long car ride or a long flight?
Long car ride.
Why car ride?
She's better in the car.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
Eating out or cooking in?
Lately, cooking in.
Yeah. I know you guys like to go to, you did Zeke's, right?
Yeah, we were. Oh, she's obsessed with Zeke's now because that's our daddy-daughter spot, or was for a while.
Yeah.
But now daddy's trying to lose some of the weight, so
You can't always be doing pizza.
yeah, you can't. So we're trying to switch it up.
All right. This is the final one. One-on-one time, that's like a daddy-daughter date, or the whole fam date?
Usually the whole fam date. I love daddy-daughter time, but because it depends on the week.
Yeah.
Or the day, honestly. But because it's something real fun and special about when it's just the two of us palling around. After a busy day, I could use the support.
You guys can tag team it together.
Yeah,
and have
exactly.
fun and
We're
be
pretty
together.
good at tag teaming, so
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I love it. Hey, Kris, thanks for joining me on the podcast. This was awesome. I hope you enjoy yourself. Remember the moments, like the little things and all that, talking about that. We had a great time, great conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for dropping some knowledge too.
Hey, let's go.
As the dad host here, you've got some wise knowledge. It's nice to hear you imparting it.
Thanks, man.
yeah.
I learned from all my guests. I'm just bringing it all together. So,
Yeah, that's cool.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Kris. What's up, guys? It's Kevin from the Rise and Dad podcast. Thanks so much for watching this episode. We hope that you like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, rate, do all the great things that'll help us keep making content for you. Thanks a lot.